Hello and welcome to Social Business SW Chat, brought to you by stopthinksocial.com. I'm Liz Christopher, and I'm here today with some panellists that we've got here, and I will introduce them all now. We have got Jenn. She is from Intelligent. She's social media and community manager. We have Mark here from Social Text, and he is customer success manager. And we've also got here Stephanie, community celebratoire from Hootsuite. Today is very exciting because we have got a brand new show, which we're very excited about, which is every Monday at this time, which is 1 PM PT, 4 PM ET, and 9 PM GMT. And what we're doing is we're following on from the previous Thursday's Twitter chat. And last week we talked about social business expectations for 2013. Now, the Twitter chat is on a Thursday at the same time as the show, so the 1 PM PT, 4 PM ET, 9 PM GMT. And we use the hashtag #SWChat, and we have 5 questions. Sometimes we have an unchat, but last week we had 5 questions, and what we've done is we've sort of taken some of the key parts from that chat last week, and we are turning it into a G+ Hangout on air show. So we're going to be back again next week. So the first thing we are going to start with, and I think Jenn, you raised this as a point, which is, what is social business?
Right. So that's a big question. It's is social business actually separate from business? And that's a point of contention, because some people still want to silo social media and business and as a sort of department within a company or within an organization, and it's separate from the business, or it's another aspect of the business. But those of us, in the industry see that business itself essentially is social to start off with, and the tools that we're using now are filtering throughout the company, from the C-suite all the way down to the analyst. Everybody is using social to talk about your company, and you need to be prepared within your organization to use it and have a strategy. If you don't, you may find yourself left behind.
Right, so I'm just thinking, if there's somebody watching the show and they're thinking, right, okay, so I've got a Facebook page, I've got a G+ page, I tweet to people, I'm a social business.
Right. Well, I think that's part of the discussion is, I think that definition is still open. For some people, you're not a social business until you have that strategy. You can just be out there talking, but you're just broadcasting and you're not actually interacting. And until you understand that that mechanism, that relationship building, you're not actually building upon the social business strategies that other companies are taking advantage of right now.
Right, and Mark, what's your view on the definition of social business?
So a couple thoughts. One, I'm an anthropologist and a historian working in social media, right? So I think everything is social. We're all social. I think cave paintings were social media, right? So I think to create this distinction between business and social business is to really stick your head in the sand. That the water cooler used to be social media. That we've always had gathering points or places within the business where people shared information and exchanged information, and to kind of stick our heads back in the sand now and say, well, we're going to silo that in marketing, or we're going to silo that in communications. It's just, well, like Jenn said, it's a recipe for getting yourself left behind. And so I think realization of what we already are, is critical to us being able to maximize the tools. When PCs came out, you can look at that for an analogy that people used PCs as typewriters, that it wasn't really until they were networked and people understood what networking computers meant that the productivity took off. It's not until we realize that we are social and that what these social tools can do for us, that the productivity that we want to see from social media in the enterprise is really going to take off.
Right, and you know, sort of productivity and planning is one of your other points that you wanted to raise from the chat, wasn't it?
Well, it is, but there's and it goes along with something else that Jenn was saying, that it's not until we appreciate these things and make moves with a strategy in this direction that we're going to maximize it. From the productivity standpoint, I'd also say that it's not until we change the culture that we're going to maximize these products. That these products attack or change cultures within organizations, and not in a bad way, but they change it. So so my example is, there's a difference between social media and Web 2.0. Web 2.0 is a different way of doing business. Social media is a set of tools, and you can use a set of tools in a very 1.0 way. So you can have a wiki-like capability that you put an approval process in front of, right? So that's a 2.0 culture, and do things differently, that we can really get to the productivity aspect. And I think to tie in what you were asking me, we need to find what's our purpose for using the social media in the enterprise, and I think that will drive a lot of our usage.
Yeah, so what you were saying about culture, we've had a lot of other chats, and we sort of joke about the fact that we've yet to have a video show where we haven't mentioned the C word, and it crops up. So you can't really have a social business, it sounds like, unless you've got the culture. It's all very well having the social media, but would that mean that culture really is the differentiator between a social business and a non-social business?
I think it's a differentiator between a business doing well with social media and one just using it as a band-aid or as an add-on. That your business is already social, your employees are already networking with each other, they're doing it on their smartphones, they're doing it outside the firewall somehow, they're already using these tools. That's in an organization where the culture hasn't changed. In an organization where the culture has changed, you're enabling these things, you're bringing them behind the firewall, you're embracing different devices on the company network, even though that can be a real pain for IT people, but you're doing those hard choices to change the culture. So it's not, are you a social business or are you not? It's, where are you along the spectrum, right?
Yeah. Stephanie, I saw you nodding your head a lot there.
Yeah, I totally agree with both what Jenn and Mark was saying about social business. And it's really interesting because before, businesses are social, but in a very passive way. They would put up an ad and wait for people to call them to purchase their product. And now with the word social media in it, that changed the whole ecosystem of the business itself. And people start engaging with their customers, which I think is excellent, which is awesome. So
great. And of course at stopthinksocial.com, and when we're sort of talking on these chats that we do on Thursdays and on shows that we've done before, we actually say that social business, we often mean we're talking about inside, behind the firewall, rather than actually directly to customers. But of course we've also talked about how those lines are a little bit grey, and how it's very hard to say that it's all just about behind the firewall, that actually the firewall is sort of going a little bit transparent.
Yeah, Jen, Liz, there's a point where you can say, I'm going to hire somebody, and we're going to work behind the firewall. But if you just hired any of us without allowing us to access our network that exists outside the firewall, you're not getting the full potential of us. That each of us has spent a long time building really probably pretty good networks, and that I understand the need to keep some things behind the firewall. I used to work for the Department of Defense, but even when I was working there, I built this large network of people that I'd done other jobs with, and when I was confronted with a problem, if I had the capability to reach out to them for an answer, for a help, for a pointer at a resource, that was that was productivity related, but it wasn't a B2C kind of relationship, right? It was I don't know what B2 letter it went to, but it was allowing your own employees to access their external networks. So I think there can be inside the firewall with employees talking to other employees of the company. There can be companies talking to customers, but there can also be those employees talking to people outside the firewall, asking for help that just wouldn't be available if you were limiting it to the people you worked with.
And I think that's how, like, you know, the customer is influencing what is happening behind the firewall. Mm-hmm. It's customer is influencing culture due to our social business. It kind of goes back to the old, you know, Zappos model. You know, it's customer service based, and it has affected their culture. It's actually improved their corporate culture. So that's, if companies are not paying attention to what the customer is feeding them, it's not going to help them as far as their business strategy goes on the inside.
So I can also give an example from that for Hootsuite itself. So we started listening to all the different countries in the world, trying to figure out what is it that each country wants from us. And we realized that, for example, Brazil, they're big in Orchid. So that's a social network that none of us use here in Canada or anywhere else in the world. But it is what the customer kept asking us, and the user kept saying, like, oh, Hootsuite, it'll be great if you have Orchid integrated into your dashboard. So using our own tool to listen to our own customers, we finally integrated Orchid to the dashboard. And at first, the Westerners were like, whoa, why did you add such a social network that's dying? Well, to the Brazilians, it's such a great move because it is important to them, and it shows that we're listening and creating a great business with them.
Right. Thanks, Stephanie. Right, I think this is the point at which we should talk about our second topic for today, which we've lightly touched on. Questions 1 and 2 in the Twitter chat related to setting goals. Question 1 was about what were your achievements last year in 2012, and question 2 was about your goals for this year, 2013. And I know that I had a number of conversations with people talking about how what they were concerned with was that they weren't necessarily being as productive as they could be. They got that social media could be of great benefit to them, but they weren't entirely certain that they weren't just spending their time being social rather than actually being productively social, and that maybe they needed to schedule their time better, and maybe perhaps they ought to sit down and plan it a bit more. And I know, Mark, this is something you wanted to talk about.
Well, yeah, you know, I don't think it's a matter so much of scheduling your time better. I think it's back to the my point with the organization of having a purpose. I think as an individual, you have to have a purpose going into social media. When I started using Twitter, when it came out, I didn't have any purpose except I like to try things. I signed up for it. I saw a lot of what people were having for lunch, and I like Jenn's cue card, ask why. Yeah, it's the so what question, right? So I actually quit Twitter. When I went back in with a purpose to build a network. And just like when you started blogging and you used to have your blog, and now I can't believe that blogging is actually dating people, right? I mean, but that dates you now is when you started blogging. But you used to go on someone else's blog and look at their blog roll and see who they were following in their RSS feeder, and just kind of bring that over. And so I started doing the same thing with Twitter, and I built a more productive network. And so now my time on Twitter is much more productive. It's not a matter of scheduling; it's the purpose that I had in doing it. And I don't think. I think one trap to avoid is to go into social media, anything like Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest, with a goal of follower counts or anything like that. That's just a recipe for trouble or spam. I think you go into it with something that you want to get out of it that's independent of things like follower counts, and I think that's kind of the road that leads you to finding productivity in social media.
So don't make your goal sort of based on increasing your followers. So if you don't base it on that, then what do you base your goals on?
Well, so I think a way to get followers is to have something interesting to say. So as a goal, you know, it's so have an opinion and not be forceful or overwhelming, but so have a take on things. Don't be a passive observer. The people that I follow on Twitter the most, that I kind of take a purpose from, are the ones who have a point of view and defend it well. So and those are the people who get the most followers, unless they're a sales marketing bot, right? That's out there just doing auto follows on people. So use something like you know, analytics in Hootsuite, or analytics in something like Crowd Booster, to look at, you know, here one article got retweeted 10 times, but it reached a potential audience of 2 million people. Here it got retweeted 20 times, but it only reached 2,000 people. So what's your better count? You know, so make a, you know, one of my goals might be to build a more influential network, not a higher numerical network, but a more influential network, right?
Right, because it goes back to what you were saying before, Mark, about how you know, when you look at applying for a job or whatever, you know, it's your network as well. You can get things done, and there's strength in network, and you build that up. And of course, social media
within your company, right? I mean, you want to build an influential network inside your company. I want to know who the CEO's executive assistant is, because that's an influential person. That's a gateway person, right? And so you want to be careful about how you craft your network. But yeah, that works inside the company and kind of external as well.
Right, because that old adage, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
Jen, what sort of goals do you set? I mean, I presume you don't. Do you disagree with Mark when he says about follower counts and?
No, not wholly. I definitely think that should not be your goal, and I think that unfortunately, you know, many of our, you know, social media employees who are coming into the job perhaps, or who maybe have been doing it a little while and haven't quite gotten a handle on it, you know, they might be getting you know, requests from on top. You know, we need to have more followers than our competitor. We need to look, you know, bigger than, you know, this guy next to us. But you need to ask them, you know, where's the return on our investment here? So we've got this big number of followers, so that's going to have, you know, effect on some people. You obviously, you see someone who's popular and you think, okay, I should follow them also, and that will spread your message a little bit. But is that actually going to sell your product? How is that actually going to help your brand image? The real key to social is the relationship building. So it's really critical to have those quality relationships. So if you got someone, let's say Mark, who's, you know, got a good following and he, you know, has a lot of quality content, you want that person to be talking about you. So you want a quality follower versus a quantity of follower. But as far as like overall goals, I think I just kind of like went off in the ether with that one. But as far as like goals generally, I think you do have to always ask, well, here's my goal. Why, you know, why is this important? You know, like, why is this? And then once you can answer that, great. You know, if it doesn't seem shallow to you, then go for it. If it seems like it's a quality achievement at the end, and it's something that you can actually do, that it's not too over your achievement level, then go for it. And as far as like trying to achieve those things over time, you really need to like have just like maybe 1 or 2 goals, and that's it. That's one of my things is this year for myself is I need to pare down, because when you try to achieve too much, I mean, it's that old saying, when you start when you start multitasking, you start doing everything half off, you know. So if you want to do something great, just pick the 1 or 2 really important goals and work on those, because you can really put your passion into you know, just a few rather than so many, unless you're like a super person, which I am not.
That sounds like all very good advice, Jen. And I think probably it sounds, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of value in if just by sitting down and thinking about what you're trying to achieve, even if you don't set the right goals, at least if you just think about it and try and get out of your head that it's all just about follow count, how many people have circled you, and it's more than just, I need to have a G+ account.
Right. It goes back to sort of like high school politics. It's like, you know, in the end, does it really matter if you're friends with the, you know, captain of the football team or not? Not really. You know, it's like if you have like one or two like totally awesome like nerd friends, but they're like great friends that you're going to keep the rest of your life that, you know, grow up to be really great people. Hey, that's great. You know, instead of like hanging out with the guy who's now selling carpet down the street in your old neighborhood, you know. So it's like, you know, it's like just kind of grow up, I guess. You know, get over this infantile thing with numbers and, you know, get into strategy and what you really want.
Thanks, Jen. I think we are sort of, the half hour is sort of almost seems to be coming towards an end. So I definitely want to talk about the other thing that we talked about on the Twitter chat, which was G+, especially as we are here on our very first G+ hangout. We've done video shows before, but never using G+, and it's all quite exciting because it's only a couple of weeks ago that G+ launched its communities, and I think, you know, I for one, I've always loved G+ since it started. I've been here since almost day one. And communities for me was something that was missing, and I know for myself I've started to use G+ a lot more. We've got our own community now, which is Social Business SW Chat, which we've just launched. So if you want a great social business community, then you know where to go. There will be links added to the description at the end. So, you know, communities, has this influenced your use of G+? Mark?
Oh yeah, definitely it has. Again, it's given me another purpose for being in it. You know, I got my G+ account and started kind of doing that play around with thing. And I kind of dabble in photography and found out there are a truckload of photographers on G+. So I got into a lot of those circles, but then you know, I started thinking, wow, if I just want to do photography in G+ is great, but I want to kind of broaden that. So I think communities is a great way to kind of broaden that focus. And I think the ability to do things like share circles is a powerful feature. I think they did a couple things right. I think it's still evolving, but it feels much more flexible than, say, LinkedIn to me, and it feels much more professional than something like than Facebook does to me. I kind of keep those things separate.
Yeah, I mean, on Facebook, I mean, I use Facebook a lot. I know a lot of people on G+ and Twitter like to talk quite negatively about Facebook. I'm a big Facebook fan for personal usage, and I use and run quite a lot of groups. They're very specific groups. Local school, I run a lot of groups for school, things like that, very specific purposes. But the biggest problem with groups is that the search functionality doesn't work, almost without fail. You know, it's very dodgy at best. So there's a lot of, they're different. Groups, G+ communities are kind of like Facebook groups, but they are different. But I mean, we've seen on Twitter, I found that there's quite a lot of people that either like Twitter or they like G+. We found quite a few people from our SW chat, some of the regulars, have actually, through a lot of prodding, have come across onto G+. We'll have to see how it pans out over the next few weeks. And whether people actually do get into it, whether their profile becomes a little bit of gathering dust. but it will certainly be interesting to see. But what's interesting is that communities does seem to have drawn people over, whether it's just that because so many people are talking about it, whether they see it as really great, I don't know. What do you think, Jen?
I think it's a great format right now. For some reason, like Mark was saying, it feels like a much more free environment, and a place where you can actually test a community. I think it's a great format for someone who's just starting out as a community manager as well. I did notice I didn't see a place where you could like create like rules, like different little pages, but I guess you would just create like posts, like where you kind of post it to the top, I guess. But then
there's a lot of problems with Communities is only out, like, what's it, 3 weeks now?
That's right. We're like tearing it apart.
I know.
I believe you can actually. I tried making pages and it worked. So.
Oh, did it? How did you do that?
Okay.
Give us a demo right now.
Are you thinking of an actual G+ page?
No, Google Plus Community, and then on the side you can have like the different pages, and under each page you can go to different posts.
Yeah, that's the topics. That's actually they call them topics, but they're not actually pages. What they are is so in a community you can set a community up so it's got like a bit of a file structure, so that when people post, they can post to a particular topic. And by posting to that topic, it means that if you know that you're only not interested in the whole community, but you want to see posts just to a particular area. For example, on our community, we've got quite a number of different categories: leadership, communication, etc. We've also got a shout-out topic. So if people want to put out requests for help, ideas, help, they can post to that shout-out group, part of the community. And what we want people to do is to keep a very close eye on that topic. Once it's got, when it's running really fast and people are posting every few minutes, and you feel you can't keep up with the stream, you can click on a particular topic and then see just the posts for that. So that's the way that works. But yes, Jen, you're right. There isn't like a set page thing. You can't move posts. So when somebody posts and they post it in the wrong topic, as moderators you can't move it. The best you can do is reshare it and then delete the original, but then if people have commented on it, that you lose the comments, and there's all there's no way to pin posts. But those are all, there's all these gripes, but nobody really seems to be that worried about it,
Right. Eventually somebody finds a workaround, or you get used to the tool. I guess the tool can change you, and that's another chat altogether.
Or Google fixes it.
Fixes it.
I think pinning posts and being able to recategorize are like two of the most frequently requested things that I can see people moaning about, and I think everyone at the moment is just, oh, shiny new toy, and it's all very exciting.
Well, I think I'm thinking of something that Stephanie said earlier, is that it's important and social media really allows us to listen to our customers and listen to our employees, but the second half of that is equally as important, which is then you have to do something about it, because never before have customers and employees been so able to kind of send their opinion up to the very top, right? Like I can tweet Comcast, I can tweet any of the utilities that serve my house. I've tweeted Hootsuite before about an issue I was having with that, and got a response. And so that follow-up is important, because if you don't follow up, then it becomes just a huge trap that you've asked for this input, you've asked for these opinions, and now you're ignoring it. Before, I was used to being ignored. I had no way of getting my voice out there. Now I do. And you're going to ignore it. Look at Southwest. They ignored Kevin Smith, and he's only got like 4 million followers on Twitter. And when he started tweeting about the problems that he was having with Southwest Airlines, now it becomes a problem, right? And same thing with your employees. If you're going to ask for their input and ask them to be social on an internal company network, then part of the culture shift is you need to be prepared to change the way you do things. If 90% of the employees come out and say, we don't like X, well, then you need to say, wow, we need to look at changing X, seriously. So it's that do loop, right? It's that listen but do.
Absolutely. So are we all fans of G+? Yes. I know, Mark, you post to G+ quite a lot, and Jen as well. I've seen you do so as well.
Yeah, it's grown on me.
I post a lot anyway, so yeah, I'm probably a bad gauge.
I think I like the way it looks better than Facebook for some reason. It's less cluttered, that's for certain. And I feel like there's so much weirdness going on with Facebook with all the changes. It's like, feels like G+, even though it's Google and they own everything, but it's just like, I just feel like it's a little cleaner. It's a little nicer place to talk to people.
None of my high school friends are on G+, so.
See? That's it.
So you compare it to Facebook, compare it to Twitter, compare it to LinkedIn?
I don't, compare is tough. It's in the social media toolbox, right? But they all do different things, right? Twitter's my fire hose, right? Facebook is a very closed loop. G+ is different. It's evolving. It's social, but it's more professional. LinkedIn is. I don't share a lot on LinkedIn. I accept network requests on LinkedIn, but I don't use it much. And I think maybe that's got to do with the purpose of why I got on LinkedIn in the first place. Wasn't to really use it as a sharing network, but to have somewhere online that my job experience could live. So they all have their different capabilities, right? And it's just like a toolbox. I use each one for something different.
Yeah, that has to be your strategy. Each channel has to mean something different to you. You can't, especially if you're an organization, be just broadcasting the same message in the same way across every channel, because you're going to lose your followers, you're going to lose your audience.
I have to say I completely agree, and it's that sort of fit for purpose. And Mark, the way you describe the different channels and how you use them is exactly how I use.
Oh, cool.
I use them, and Twitter to me isn't a competitor of G+ for that reason. Mm-hmm. They are different products, and yep. I go onto them for a different reason. I don't post the same thing on both. I go on to Twitter because I want that quick snapshot conversation. On G+ for that more in-depth conversation. So they are different. So it's going to be interesting to see how things sort of pan out for those people, new people, because there has been a flurry of new people to me on my networks that have gone on Twitter just starting to use G+. I've seen that from the posts in the communities. Hi, I've just jumped onto G+. So we're sort of... well, we didn't really expect to stick to 30 minutes.
We're close, right?
We're pretty close. We did start a little bit late and everything else. So I think really is sort of time to try and wind up and say our thank yous and goodbyes. I really want to thank Jen, Mark and Stephanie for joining me today and discussing social business expectations for 2013. And of course, thank you all for watching. Please do come back next week, especially as we have a new exciting addition to the show. We're going to be doing a What's Hot. It's going to be a little roundup by our regular panelists. So we'll see how that pans out. We're throwing things together as the show progresses. So we'd love to know your feedback on the show. Please do share with friends and make sure you come back next week. This Thursday we are discussing next generation collaboration on the Twitter chat, and that's on a Thursday at the same time as this show. So it should be easy to remember. 1 p.m. PT, 4 p.m. ET, 9 p.m. GMT. And then we'll be doing a sort of the after show, extended show. I don't know quite how to describe what we've just done. Panelists will be reviewing the Twitter chat, and we'll be working out what we can discuss on the same sort of themes. So thank you, everybody. For more information, visit stopthinksocial.com or visit our community social business SW chat. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.